In today's video, we are going to dive into something that is very important for survivors: understanding the weakness of narcissists. Often people think of narcs as powerful and untouchable, but in reality, they have several deep vulnerabilities. And by understanding their weaknesses, we can better protect ourselves and avoid falling victim to their manipulative tactics. Also, this can remind us that they're not as strong and powerful as they would like everyone to think they are. So let's break down some of the key weaknesses that narcs try to hide beneath their grandiose facade. Number one, we got to talk about the fragile ego. Even though they act like they're on top of the world, their self-esteem is incredibly fragile. The slightest criticism can set them off, and they can react in different ways: defensiveness, anger, or even try to deny what's going on, denying the reality to protect their inflated image. That's what so many people need to be around narcissists for. It's why they need an entourage. They need people at the ready to boost their self-esteem, to validate them, and so on. Number two, the lack of empathy. Narcs have no empathy. They struggle to understand or care about the emotions of others. Narcissism is an extremely selfish disorder. It's all about them. You are an afterthought at best. And that's what makes it so hard for them to build meaningful connections and why they're often so lonely. They can't relate to anyone's pain nor joy, and they very likely ignore those things, dismiss people's feelings, and overall minimize people. They can't handle it. They don't want to deal with it. And again, it leads to them feeling lonely a lot more than they want you to know about. We also have to talk about their fear of exposure. Behind their really tough, they've got all their shit together exterior, narcs have a fear of exposure, or basically getting a bad reputation or having their bad reputation being spread around. They're terrified of people seeing the real them. You know why? Because they're insecure, they're inadequate, and not as special as they would love everyone to think that they are. And this can make them go to extreme lengths in order to maintain this perfect image. And if that image cracks, they will do anything to cover it up, even going so far as to become potentially violent, lash out, and more. Narcs have a super hella weakness: their dependence on all of that validation. Narcs are dependent entirely on the external validation, like I say, from their entourage, from their sources of supply. They need the compliments, the ass pats, the admiration, the praise, and so on to feel good about themselves. That's why one person is never going to be enough, because without this constant, steady stream of ass kissing and everything else, the self-worth of a narcissist crumbles. They can't handle being ignored, being neglected, or what they call neglected, or criticized. Another big weakness, and I hit on it just a moment ago, the superficial relationships that leave them feeling extremely lonely. These are lonely people. Don't let them have you thinking otherwise. All the social media, all the friends, all the lovers, it's bullshit. They don't form emotional bonds. They don't emotionally invest in people. They have shallow, surface level, superficial relationships. Also, the relationships are generally very one-sided and all based on what the narcissist can gain. Once they no longer benefit from you, they usually discard without a second thought. Big weakness here: the inability to handle rejection. They can't handle it, flat out. And not that anybody likes rejection. No one's over here like, yay, rejection. But whether it's a missed opportunity, romantic rejection, or even just not being the center of attention enough, narcs typically react very dramatically to this. You'll see the rage, the temper tantrum. They storm out of the room. They ruin 5-year-old Billy's birthday party because Billy's getting the attention instead of this grown-ass adult. They'll do anything they can to make themselves feel better. Rejection cuts a narc probably deeper than almost anything else. Believe it or not, one of a narc's biggest weaknesses is the manipulation and control tactics that they use. These are master manipulators. They use these tactics like gaslighting or guilt tripping, but those tactics could be exposed. They could lose control and start to unravel. Also, if they can't get these tactics to work, they take it very personally. If they can't lure somebody in, if they can't get someone to leave their spouse or do something, if they can't get the control, they feel like failures. And that is another angle to where all of this control and manipulation hurts them very deeply. Another weakness, these people run in hot and cold and that massive inconsistent behavior. And this is one thing that can be very confusing about narcs is that inconsistent behavior. They're charming, they're charismatic, and then they're cold or hostile. And this unpredictability makes them very hard to deal with. It's also why sometimes people confuse them for being bipolar. It's a huge sign of emotional instability, emotional immaturity, impulsiveness, and frankly, lots of other weaknesses. We already talked about it a moment ago, but I want to give it its own point. The vulnerability to the criticism. Somebody so confident could surely handle a little criticism, right? Nope, it's an extreme vulnerability, and they will often react very harshly when they're criticized, sometimes even attacking the person who gave them legitimate feedback. Again, minimizing, making someone feel small, insignificant, or even attempting to flip the script and point out the other person's flaws. Oh, I didn't do so good on the report for the class that we had. Well, you didn't do this. Well, you didn't do that. Here's all the ways that you suck. That might get the spotlight off of them for a moment. A huge weakness is the lack of accountability. We know narcs don't take responsibility for their actions. They deflect and they blame shift, or just flat out refuse to talk about anything whatsoever and refuse to acknowledge their mistakes. And this inability to own up to anything actually is a weakness, as it prevents these people from growing, learning, and improving in any way, shape, or form. Narcs burn out from their ridiculously high standards and high expectations. This is a vulnerability. This is a weakness. They're unrealistic expectations. They set incredibly high standards for not only themselves, but others, leading to constant disappointment. When things don't go as planned, the result is burnout, not just for them, but for everyone around them as well. Constantly failing relationships, not working out, is making them disappointed and sad. They take it personally. They feel like failures. And all of this high expectation results in complete burnout. A huge weakness that some people may or may not be aware of is the short-term focus. Narcs can barely see in front of their nose. Their focus most of the time is purely on short-term goals and that sweet, sweet instant gratification. Rather than planning or doing anything long-term, they're chasing the fleeting pleasures, the impulsive decisions, and this leaves them feeling ultimately in the long run unfulfilled, like the narcissists who choose to have flings over the long-term relationships. It's fun, it's exciting, it's good again for the instant gratification, for all that stuff they're looking for, fun, exciting, but it's part of their need to be constantly validated, and that just does not help them long term. They're stuck from short term to short term, from A to B, over and over and over again, leading them to be lonely, unfulfilled, sad, and miserable. Recognizing these weaknesses can, number one, have us poke a little fun at them, which I enjoy doing and don't feel bad about. But it can also help survivors of the abuse reclaim their power and protect themselves and move forward. And that is truly, as fun as this is, that's what this video is all about. To get the awareness out to survivors, to remind each and every survivor out there that you're powerful, that you're not stupid. These people are not any kind of a genius. And this is what you can see and protect yourself going forward. If you found this video helpful, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more content. If you have any personal experiences or thoughts, feel free to share them in the comments below. Remember that you're not alone and there is always hope for healing. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great day, survivor, and take care of yourself.